What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro-black commentary. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the political response from both political parties to the murder of Tyree Nichols. And before I get to that, let me just uh, preface this video by saying that I am aware of the tweets that were found of Tyree Nichols buck dancing and acting like a complete buffoon. And I'm going to save that for a completely separate video. Okay, so you don't have to tell me here or tell me that you don't care about what happened to Tyree Nichols because of those tweets. I understand. Okay, I'm not begrudging you that, but we can still talk about these subjects and not get overly emotional about them either. Okay, so let me talk about the politics that's going around the murder of Tyree Nichols. And first, I'll start off with the Republican conservative side. Now, just as sure as the sun comes up in the morning, you know, anytime a black person is murdered by the police or just this white supremacist system, you're going to have white supremacist, bigoted conservatives send their bootlicks out in force to make up any type of distracting argument. They never really stay on topic. It's all it's always deflection. It's always let's focus on something else. And basically it always returns to it's somehow black people's fault for this black person being killed. You know, it's funny because they almost had a built-in scapegoat there because the cops themselves were black. But I think one of the reasons a lot of those black conservatives didn't want to focus on that too much is because, you know, you have these black police officers who are working for the system and they killed this black man. And those Negroes were basically the military arm of white supremacy. And these black conservative Negroes are basically the propaganda mouthpiece side of white supremacy. So they didn't want to draw too many comparisons in that regard. So they kind of wanted to deflect even from those police because they don't want people drawing the comparison. Because, I mean, they basically do the same thing. You know, those cops may have killed Tyree Nichols, but, you know, you'll have buck dancing Negroes like Jason Whitlock come out and assassinate the man's character or just black people in general. You know, he came out there with that nonsense about it's single black mother's fault because black men treat each other so badly. And, you know, they don't have any respect for authority and don't listen to the police. Now, let's say that's true. Okay, let's say it's the single mother's fault for the way that young black men act when we are around the police. It's not that we're scared for our lives. It's not that these police are just complete thugs and murderers and have no self-control of their own. It's always it's the black woman's fault and her being a single mom. And I saw a bunch of gender war buffoons, you know, going along with what he said, right? And let's say that's true. So what was the excuse for the, you know, the people on January 6th? Well, what was white people's excuse then? If it's all has to do with not having a father or, you know, being raised by a single mother, why didn't those white people comply when they ran up into the Capitol and the police there, the Capitol Police were telling them not to come in? Like, what was Ashley Babbitt's excuse? You know, Ashley Babbitt was told not to bust through that window, but she did it anyway. And though that Capitol cop peeled her cabbage back. Okay, so why didn't she listen? Why didn't she comply? She had a father. Her father talks about her being killed all the time because he's very upset about that. Now he should have taught his daughter better because then she wouldn't have been there in the first place. She'd have had more sense to stay home. And if she wanted to gripe about Donald Trump losing the election, she could have exercised her right as a citizen just by, you know, voting. But she didn't want to do that. She wanted to take matters into her own hands, and she paid the cost for it, the ultimate cost. So, you know, why didn't Juice Jug, Jason Whitlock get on Tucker Carlson's program and talk about that? I call him that. I call him Juice Jug because that's what he reminds me of. Jason Whitlock is built like those juice jugs we used to get when we were little kids that they usually sell for like WIC and welfare and whatnot. That's what Jason Whitlock looks like. He's built just like one of those juice jugs. And he has a little square head and everything. So, why wasn't he on Tucker Carlson talking about Ashley Babbitt and why she didn't comply, or the failures in white society that caused that riot on January 6th, where they stormed the Capitol? See, they won't talk about stuff like that because that doesn't go along with their BS narrative. It's not painting black people only in a negative light. Okay? And, like I said, it's pretty typical when you see stuff like this, when you have these conservatives come out there and buck dance. I mean, they got other ones out there too, like Brandon Tatum and Sheriff David Clark, the Grand Wizard of Butter Biscuits. They got him out there to talk down on Tyree Nichols and defend these cops. But like I said, it's typical. Brandon Tatum and Sheriff Clark, they wish they could have been there to help beat this black man to death. Like that would have made their day if they could have been there to assist those other black cops in beating that young man to death. I mean, that's what they want to do. Okay, so that's what they're going to do verbally. They're going to get out there and try to tear him down and make it seem like he did something wrong for not wanting to be assaulted by these demons. Okay, so that's the conservative side of things. I mean, they do what they always do. White people run their mouth and they get their little black buck dancing minions to talk down on the black person who was killed. Then you have the liberal side, the Democratic side of things. And they, of course, anytime a black person is killed, these Democrats, they use that as an opportunity to gin up support for themselves from the black community. It was an absolute disgrace that so many of these Democrats and these political operatives showed up to Tyree Nichols' funeral. That was disgusting. What's his name? Civil rights zombie Al Sharpton showed up. All these Negroes from these different state governments and whatnot, like Keisha Bottoms, and of course, the vice president Kamala Harris, or Cop Mala Harris. Now, how are you going to have Cop Mala Harris at a funeral for someone who got murdered by the police? Kamala Harris was a big supporter of the police when she worked over in California for years. She has all types of pictures with her posted up with the police and will work making laws to lock up black women, and would laugh if someone told her that was the wrong thing to do. You see? But now all of a sudden she's for the people. Now all of a sudden she's seen the light and she is working to get rights for black people against the police. She gave that little crappy speech of hers where she basically read off a piece of paper, which was even more disgusting. So you can tell it wasn't even from the heart. She didn't even believe anything she was saying. She was reading off a piece of paper. You can even see her looking down and turning the pages during her little BS speech. But we're supposed to take her seriously. She barely shows herself at all. This is like the first time I've seen her around any other black people, or at least other than when she's pretending that she celebrates Kwanzaa. By the way, that's different. She claims that her and her family celebrated Kwanzaa. I guess they celebrated in their Indian house. They celebrate Kwanzaa in India too, I guess. But now all of a sudden she's out there pretending like she gives a damn about Tyree Nichols, knowing damn well if she was the governor of that state, if she was the senator for that state, or if she was just running for a council woman of that state, she'd have been all for that young man being murdered by the police. Okay? So I don't take any of these people seriously. And once again, like I said, Al Sharpton came out there, the civil rights zombie, because that's what he looks like. He looks like a corpse nowadays. Well, maybe a better term for him would be the civil rights vulture, because that's what he does. When a black person is killed, he comes out to feast on their bones. So that's a more appropriate term for people like him and people of his political ilk. They come out and feast on the dead flesh of the black person who was killed by these demons out here. Okay? It's a sick world we live in, and I don't trust either of these parties, whether it be the Democrats or the Republicans. Okay? The Democrats are using it for political gain, trying to put some good points in with the black community to say that we did something for you. Now, when it comes to the Asians, when it comes to these illegal immigrants, they got all types of laws passed quick, fast, and in a hurry. But when it comes to black people, we're trying to get something passed. We're going to work towards getting something passed. And then when it doesn't get passed, they're going to blame the Republicans, saying it was filibustered. Somehow, the Republicans can't stop any of these laws being passed when they pass stuff for gay folks or for Asians or for illegal immigrants, but they can always stop something for black people. That's how useless the Democrats are, you see? And they want to tell you to vote for them and keep voting for them because they'll help you get your rights or they'll help to protect you, but they can never get across the finish line. They can never get that extra bit of energy to finally get something passed for you. And then they'll say, well, we'll try next time. Keep on voting for us. No, we're not going to waste our time doing that. So that's why I mean how, people can obviously see that the Republicans are our open enemy because they'll condone and blame us for getting killed by the police. But then you got the Democrats who will provide no sanctuary or no help or no laws to help us be protected from this type of violence, or even a law that gives full prosecution to these demons when they do kill us. No hate crime laws. So I don't want to hear anything about voting Democrat when the time comes, okay? Because I'm going to remember all these people do is they show their face and they stump for votes at black people's funerals. That's the only thing they can do. And I'm sick and tired of it. If I was Tyree Nichols' parents, I would feel absolutely disgraced by that. I would be very angry that they used my child's funeral as a way for them to get votes to basically do nothing for black people. If they had done something before, Tyree Nichols might still be alive now because those cops would have known better. But they don't care about that, you see? They only care about certain things when it gets closer to election time. So you folks let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. Once again, I don't trust the Republicans or the Democrats. I don't like liberals or conservatives and these Negroes, these buffer Negroes that they put out there to squawk for them and regurgitate their nonsense. Those Negroes are even worse. They're no different than those cops that killed Tyree Nichols. Anyway, you guys let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Mad Black, and I will be back with my foot on these devils' back.